Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
This is the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, here's Roger Stone.
Welcome, I'm Roger Stone, and you're here at 77 WABC Radio. We are the crown jewel of AM radio, the most powerful, influential AM radio station in the United States of America. It's my great privilege to be at the 77 WABC Gala this past Friday night, where we were raising money for the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, the Police Athletic League, and also the St. Francis Feed the Hungry Project, as well as celebrating the birthday of John Catsimatidis, who, of course, does the great Katz and Cosby show here every Sunday morning to set the table for that day, but every day at 5. You don't want to miss that. I did notice on email today, on social media, that Bill de Blasio says that if 1 million people sign up for the Paisans for Harris, I guess it's an online Zoom call, that he will go to the Olive Garden and set a record for the most breadsticks ever eaten. Sorry, Mayor de Blasio. First, your real name is Wilhelm. You do have a little bit of Italian blood, but no real Italian would ever go to the Olive Garden. I know I'm half Italian myself. I'm half Hungarian, half Italian. I'm Italian from the waist down. Okay, so we have now with us as our guest the press secretary for President Donald Trump's campaign. She worked for President Trump in the White House as a presidential writer and assistant press secretary, now working on the president's campaign as his national press secretary. It is our great privilege to join Karoline Leavitt to the Roger Stone Show.
Thank you so much, Roger. It's a great privilege to join you on your radio show. I appreciate your having me.
Very pleased to have you because, well, you work very closely with the president. Now, I've known the president 45 years, but for people who don't know him, he's sometimes hard to explain because he's not only a great boss, but he's a man of enormous stamina, enormous courage, enormous energy, enormous resilience. He's got a wicked sense of humor, often a self-deprecating sense of humor. So a softball question, but what do you find it to be like to work for Donald Trump?
Well, I love the question, and I appreciate the question because I think everyone in America would love Donald Trump if they knew him as well as you do, Roger, and have gotten to work for him like I have. And he is a great boss. Everything you just said about him is true. He truly is one of the funniest people I have ever met. I mean, he has us always laughing out loud, whether we're on the plane or in meetings. He has a sense of humor, and it's really remarkable how he views life, especially in the face of so much adversity since he began this political journey. And he has faced more adversity and challenges and witch hunts and political lawfare than arguably any man that has ever run for president of the United States in our nation's history. Yet he's still positive, and he's still the Energizer Bunny in our campaign. And he has an amazing stamina, as you said. I'm a third of the president's age, I think, maybe a little bit less than that, but still it is difficult for me and my colleagues to keep up with him on this campaign because he works 24/7. And one thing about President Trump as well is he is always the most well-read person in the room. And I try to beat him on that as his press secretary, to try to be more well-read than him, because it's my job as a staffer to be there for him when he doesn't know something. But seldom does he not know the answer to something. He is constantly reading, absorbing the news. And that's why he was such a great president, and he's such a great candidate, because he truly understands the problems of this country, the pain that people are feeling, and he's on top of it at all times. He really is. It's amazing.
I want to remind our listeners, we're going to be taking your phone call shortly. That number is 800-848-9222. That's 800-848-9222. Right now, we're talking to Karoline Leavitt with the Trump campaign. By the way, just to be absolutely clear, open invitation to anyone in Kamala Harris's campaign who would like to come on for an interview. We'd be more than happy to interview right here on the Roger Stone Show. I don't think the phone's going to be ringing, but it's an open invitation. So we're going into a debate, and the one thing I do know is that Donald Trump is not and will never be a politician. He's a political leader. He's the leader of a political movement. He is running not because he wants a fancy title or because he wants to ride in Air Force One or he wants a fancy mansion. He ran for president to begin with because he loves his country and he hated to see what was happening to it. He hated to see that we were losing. And that America life was declining, respect for America was declining around the world. Our economy was going into the toilet. We were getting taken by these one-size-fits-all international trade deals, which were great for our trading partners, but not so great for the United States. Mm-hmm. One of the things that really aggravates me is when people say, Joe Biden, for example, Trump's in it for himself. Could you speak about that for a moment?
It's laughable when people say that to me because, as you know, Roger, we've both been to Mar-a-Lago, a beautiful property. I've been on the golf course with President Trump. He enjoys golfing very much. He owns multiple incredible golf courses around this world, and he could be enjoying all of that he and his family have worked so hard to build and enjoy his life. But he has chosen not to, and the man works harder than anyone in politics. He's constantly barnstorming the country. Again, like I said, reading up on the news, doing media interviews, and he doesn't do it for fame or fortune. He's one of the few people in politics that didn't get into it for the profit. In fact, as we know, he donated his government salary during his first term, and he actually lost some of his net worth when he was in office. He's the first modern president to get less rich following serving in the White House. And so I think that speaks volumes about, one, his character, and two, the reason he's doing this and why he's running this campaign. And it truly is, as you said, because he loves this country so much. He loves the people of this country, and he wants to save it from the misery that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have brought to this country over the past 4 years. He launched this second campaign the same reason he launched his campaign in 2016, for the forgotten men and women of America who feel forgotten again under the Biden-Harris regime. And one more thing I would just add to that is that President Trump, like I said, is working around the clock every single day to win this election. And we feel as though now at this state of the race, we have the momentum. He certainly has the money. He's significantly outraised the Democrats for the majority of this race. And we're looking forward to the opportunity on Tuesday for President Trump to use the chance to highlight his record of success with the failures of the past 4 years that Kamala Harris owns.
As you know, he doesn't do your traditional, debate preparation where somebody comes in and pretends to play the role of Kamala Harris and other members of the staff pose as reporters and pepper him with conventions. He doesn't do it that way. He does it his way. But I have a feeling he'll be extraordinarily well prepared. How's that process going?
He is extraordinarily well prepared, just like he was with his knockout debate with Joe Biden on CNN. And as you said, the president doesn't do the traditional prep with the mock debate with a stand-in actor pretending to be Kamala. He does meetings with policy advisors, with those that he trusts, to freshen up on the issues, if you will, to talk about what the latest that's happening, whether it's at the southern border or with our economy, and to think about how he can offensively go on offense against Kamala Harris for her record. And that's one of the things he's been doing is, of course, looking at Kamala Harris's record, not just as vice president, which we know has been a complete abysmal failure, but also in her time as Attorney General of California, in her time as this very radical liberal district attorney from San Francisco. There's a lot to unpack in Kamala Harris's long career of being a career politician. She's made some really bad decisions. She's let some very violent criminals out on bail. She's been weak on crime her entire career. She was the most liberal senator in this country. She supported some of the most radical policies this country has ever seen, like Medicare for all and getting rid of private health insurance, a ban on fracking, which would be devastating to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and so many other states that depend on our energy industry in this country. And Kamala Harris, as we know, has zero foreign policy experience or military experience, aside from being Joe Biden's co-partner in the terrible withdrawal from Afghanistan that led 13 service members to be killed. So there is a lot to go on offense with against Kamala Harris on Tuesday night. She has yet to be held accountable or really ask tough questions. She has not done a single solo sit-down interview, nor has she held a solo press conference. And so she is hiding away this whole weekend, having her advisors memorize talking points into her brain. But as we've seen in debates of the past, that is not enough to debate Donald Trump. So he will be ready. He will be well prepared and well read on Kamala Harris's record and ready to hold her accountable, which is something, unfortunately, the mainstream media has yet to do in this race.
I have been extraordinarily impressed with former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. She's incredibly articulate. This is a woman who was a four-term Democrat congresswoman, once vice chairman of the Democrat Committee, National Democrat Committee, a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve, served her country with distinction as a combat veteran in both Kuwait and Iraq. And she has given up on the Democrat Party. She's written a great book about it, Leaving the Democrat Party Behind. I saw a great interview with her, and she, I think, had it right on the money. She said, look, Donald Trump doesn't need help in practicing a debate. He's a championship debater. That's not where I can help him. Where I can help him is I know her and I know her record. Right. And I think that was perfectly put. But beyond that, I think that she becomes an important bridge for independents and Democrats who don't want to vote for Kamala Harris, may have had some trepidation or hesitation about voting for Donald Trump, but now with the support of Robert Kennedy and the support of Tulsi Gabbard, I think this is a large plus. We got about 2 minutes before the break. Tell me how you feel about that.
I agree with you completely, and we're so excited to have Tulsi Gabbard on the team. She is a very effective communicator and a well-respected thought leader in this country. She's a critical thinker. We need more people like her. She has an extraordinary following. There's thousands, millions of Americans who respect her very much, and I do believe it's going to make a difference on November 5th. And I'll tell you, the Democrats certainly know it's going to make a difference, and that's why on the press team of our campaign, we have seen a flurry of incoming from the fake news Washington Post, the fake news New York Times, writing hit pieces about Tulsi Gabbard. And that tells you even the Democrats in the fake news know that she's effective and that her joining President Trump officially as part of this team is going to be very hurtful ultimately to Kamala Harris. So to your audience, I know they know better, but when you start reading some of these very nasty stories about Tulsi Gabbard that may come out this week and in the coming weeks, just know they're only being fueled by the Democrat Party, who are threatened by her support of President Trump. And we are so proud to have her on our team.
Yeah, it's entirely based on the fact that she doesn't want the killing to continue in Ukraine. Therefore, she must be a Russian agent. Absolutely ridiculous. Look, this is a simple trade. They can have Dick Cheney. They can have Liz Cheney. They can have Adam Kinzinger. We'll take Robert F. Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard every time. All right, I'm talking to Karoline Leavitt of the Trump campaign, and we'll be right back.
It's the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
This country was built on a distinctly American work ethic. But today, work is in trouble. We've outsourced most of our manufacturing to other countries. And with that, we sent away good jobs and diminished our capability to make things. American Giant is a clothing company that's pushing back against this tide. They make a variety of high-quality clothing and activewear, like sweatshirts, jeans, dresses, jackets, and so much more. All made right here in the USA, from growing the cotton to adding the final touches. So when you buy American Giant, you create jobs for seamsters, cutters, and factory workers in towns and cities across the United States. And it's about more than an income. Jobs bring pride, purpose. They stitch people together. If all that sounds good to you, visit American-Giant.com and get 20% off your first order when you use code STAPLE20 at checkout. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com with promo code STAPLE20.
It's the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
And we're back. This is the Roger Stone Show. Folks, I ask you to go to the App Store on your cell phone right now and download the 77 WABC radio app so you can listen to all of the great programming, both talk and entertainment, that we have here on the most dynamic AM radio station in the United States today, 77 WABC. We're talking to Karoline Leavitt. She is the press secretary for President Donald Trump's campaign for president. And we've been talking a wide range of subjects. I saw a piece in the UK Daily Mail, still scratching my head about this, about alleged infighting inside the Trump campaign. Yet when I read the story, virtually nobody mentioned in the story had any official capacity in the campaign at all. I've been in 13 national presidential campaigns. And I've seen this one up close. This is the best run, best strategized, best budgeted, best thought out, most cohesive campaign I've seen in my entire political career. So I don't really understand what this is about other than attempting to sow dissension where there really is none.
Mm-hmm. You're 100% right, Roger. Again, the Democrats and the fake news are threatened by the lean, mean machine that President Trump has been running this election cycle, led by Susie Wiles and Chris LaCivita. And our campaign leadership runs a tight ship. We all know our roles on this team. Everybody stays in their lane, lends a helping hand to our colleagues when necessary. And we all know who the real leader of the campaign is, and that is President Trump. He leads the direction, and we execute his direction. And I think that's why this has been such a successful campaign, because we all put our own egos aside. And as you know, Roger, there's a lot of egos in politics, but in order to win, it's all about the candidate, and it's about getting that candidate over the finish line and doing what's best for him, or for her, in this case, obviously President Trump. And he has some of the best political instincts that I've ever seen anyone, and I'm sure you would agree with that. You have a much longer career in politics than I do, but really watching him up close is incredibly impressive to see just how he knows what to do. His instinct in making decision is always spot on, and he's always looking forward and seeing, and thinking about how things will play out. And oftentimes, pretty much all the time, he turns out to be right. And our campaign team respects that and understands that. And so we let him make the decisions, and then we move forward. And we have, it's easy to run a good campaign when you have a candidate that's willing to work as hard as President Trump. And nobody in politics works harder than him. So I'm proud to be of this team. I'm proud to be a voice for this team. And it's really such a fun time. We have a lot of fun, too, which I think is very important, especially when you're facing witch hunts like we have. A quick story, when President Trump was facing the lawfare from Alvin Bragg in New York, I was there with him through the 6 weeks of trial. My colleagues and I were living in a hotel in Midtown Manhattan for 6 weeks, and it was grueling. We had court every day for 8-9 hours a day, motorcading back and forth to Trump Tower every night, early mornings. But we'd have lunch together as a team, and it was always either McDonald's or pizza. Pretty much that was what's on the menu for 6 weeks straight. But we had a lot of fun, and it was because President Trump, even in the face of being accused of 34 felony counts with no shred of evidence to prove it, was still positive and still optimistic about the campaign and the future of the country. And it's something I'll never forget.
It really aggravates me to see these attacks on Susie Wiles, because I know firsthand Rick Scott would not be in the U.S. Senate without the leadership of Susie Wiles. Donald Trump would not have carried Florida in 2016 without the leadership of Susie Wiles. Ron DeSantis would never have been governor of Florida without the leadership of Susie Wiles. And she identified Callie Means and the importance of making America healthy again. I read a bunch of books on her recommendation before I'd ever heard of Callie Means. Now I'm a true believer. She is one of the most capable women I have ever met in American politics. And this is not to take anything away from Chris LaCivita, who's a superb strategist and mechanic and organizer in his own right. And here's a little secret. I've known campaign pollster Tony Fabrizio since he was 18 years old and I was 24. He is the best in the business. The best in the business. This is the best presidential campaign in modern political history. And those naysayers who claim otherwise, well, they're in for a big surprise the day after the election. Let me ask you about vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance. I was happy with his selection. I note that at 39 years old, he's the exact same age that Richard Nixon was when he was chosen by Dwight Eisenhower to run for vice president. I think J.D. Vance has gotten a bum rap from the fake news media. He's got a 2-year record in the Senate, which is something to be proud of. He is a clear thinker. He is an America First Republican, 100% loyal to the president. And I would predict this to you. His moment in this campaign is going to come. There will be a defining moment in this campaign. Perhaps it's in the debate with Tim Walz. Perhaps it's elsewhere. I think a time is going to come very shortly where he's going to prove to be exactly the right person at exactly the right time for this nomination.
Yeah, I think that's a solid prediction because JD is sharp as a tack. And I do think there will be a moment, too, Roger, where he will shine. And I would like to predict myself it's probably going to be on that debate stage with Tim Walz because Tim Walz is no match for Senator J.D. Vance. And it is sickening to see the way that the media has attacked him and his family. I've gotten to know now Senator Vance's communications director and his press secretary. And now that our teams are fully one, we work together on a daily basis fighting against the fake news press. And I will tell you the hits on him are coming in daily. They are false. The media is digging up, trying to dig up things that don't exist, going to people that he's known his entire life, way back from his childhood. And it's sad to see because he has truly lived the American dream. And you have Tim Walz and Kamala Harris and the Democrats on television disgustingly trying to derail Senator Vance's service to this country and the United States Marine Corps, but also derail him as a blue-collar kid who grew up in poverty in the heartland of this country just because he went to Yale. And I thought that's what this country was supposed to be about, poor kids having that opportunity to go to an Ivy League school, to get a law degree, to become successful, and then, for goodness sake, to be nominated as the vice presidential candidate for the Republican Party. I think it's really, really just sad that the Democrats will chew up and spit out anyone who doesn't think the way that they do, even if they have lived the American dream. And Senator Vance really has lived the American dream. And unlike Tim Walz and Kamala Harris, he is really, really good at sitting down with the media and taking tough questions. He's unafraid. He's fearless, just like President Trump. He'll do any media all the time. And that's part of our effort, is to keep him out there as much as possible, because he speaks eloquently. He's smart. He knows the issues. And he has a real way of connecting with voters on the campaign trail, because he knows their struggles. He grew up with many of them, and he understands it.
I think you're exactly right. I think the attacks on him are born of elitism. They're born of snobbery. They hate the fact that, look, he came from a hard-scrabble background. He came from a very difficult, poor background, and he's the American success story. He didn't get into Yale because he was a legacy, student. He got in through hard work and through academic excellence. He succeeded in business. He has succeeded as an author. He succeeded as a documentary filmmaker. By the way, I've written 5 books. It's not easy to do. And then to have them be a success, that's even harder. And he's already begun a distinguished record in the Senate. And I think he's a perfect fit for Donald Trump in terms of the fact that they both are committed to a non-establishment reform agenda. Now you add Robert Kennedy, who brings an entirely new dimension to the campaign with an important crusade to make our food healthy again, to fight chronic childhood disease. I think we have the makings potentially of an entirely new political majority. The Democrat Party of John F. Kennedy, who was an ardent anti-communist, who was a tax cutter, who believed in a strong national defense, who had a deep suspicion of our intelligence agencies, who favored a silver-backed dollar and sound money. That Democrat Party no longer exists, but those Democrats still exist, and Democrat-leaning independents still exist. So I think this political partnership in which Robert Kennedy has put his own ego aside, he has put his own ambition aside for the good of the country, this is historic. Now you add Tulsi Gabbard and J.D. Vance. We have 4 people who can hit the road for these final days of the campaign, who are stars, every one of them in their own right. The Democrats cannot match this. They have Tim Walz, and I'm not sure what's wrong with that guy, but he just, the way he jumps around, it just looks wacky to me. I don't get it.
Well, he does look very wacky. It's very odd. And RFK Jr., the day that he endorsed President Trump will go down as one of the most epic moments in American politics. You had a Kennedy, to your point, endorsing a Trump. And it's one for the history books. And we're just like Tulsi Gabbard, so excited to have RFK Jr. on the team now. And he brings a diverse background and diverse ideas that I think he and President Trump have talked about. And President Trump is wholeheartedly supportive of RFK bringing those ideas to the ticket and bringing them across the country as he campaigns on behalf of President Trump, namely making America healthy again and ending this epidemic of childhood disease and chronic illness that we have in our country. And he brings up how America is one of the most unhealthy and sick nations in this world. And we shouldn't be, because we're one of the richest nations in this world, and we have advanced science. And but unfortunately, big pharma is a huge problem, as we know. And I think RFK Jr. serves as such a powerful voice. I know as a young woman myself with a new baby, there's so many young moms like me who really appreciate what he's saying in terms of chronic illness, childhood vaccinations, etc. And he speaks to that demographic very powerfully. So he's a great asset to the team as well. And you will see these faces on the campaign trail even more over the next several weeks. In addition to so many of our other great surrogates, we launched our Agenda 47 policy tour last week. So we're going to be utilizing all of these great surrogates and President Trump's friends, his fellow celebrities, some sports figures. We're going to be sending them across the country to the battleground states over the next several weeks to speak to Americans about the issues that matter to them. It's going to be the most extensive surrogate operation that this country has ever seen.
Unfortunately, we are out of time. I want to thank Karoline Leavitt of the Trump campaign, who is the press secretary for the president's reelection, for spending time with us today. Karoline, thank you so much for being on the Roger Stone Show.
Roger, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Folks, I want to remind you we're going to be taking your calls here in just a few minutes. That number, 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222, whether it is politics, history, food, fine tailoring, whatever it is you want to talk about, I'm here waiting for your calls, and we'll be right back.
It's the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.